Good morning and happy Tuesday 10 at 10. I am your host, Richard Charpentier, and every Tuesday we answer your questions that you submit to Bakerpedia. So let's get going. First question we received is somebody saying that I'm having challenges in bun scoring, especially in hamburger buns. Could anyone please guide me in this, please? Well, with your question, scoring could mean two things. It could mean the way you score, cut, or make the bun look, or how you're from a quality control, how you're scoring to evaluate the consistency or the quality of your buns. So, and not knowing what the challenges are for you in terms of the scoring you're talking about. So I don't know how to answer your question. It would be great if you had given me a little more information in terms of what's scoring and why do you see issues with scoring. But if it's scoring, it's a razor blade. You have scoring in terms of giving a look. You have people, on commercial lines who use water scoring systems, so specifically high pressure water that will cut it so consistently in the middle or sometimes across, but basically that's the extent. So sorry, I cannot give you more, to your answer. Another question. Hello, could someone tell me what is the best packing practice for blast frozen donuts? And is it better to pack the donuts before or after they are freezing? So basically the question is, blast frozen donuts. I'm assuming donuts that are fried, and whether or not to pack them before or after. So personally, if you freeze it in the box, you're already putting it in an environment, so you could potentially create some condensation within the donuts you have. So I would say pack your donuts after they're frozen. That might be easier. But again, I don't understand, the type of packaging. If you do have, you can package them and then freeze them if you have single wrap. But if you're thinking of a box donut where, that might be better to basically freeze them first because it's going to be faster. It's basically a determination of energy and how much energy you're going to use. If it's a box that has basically a large gauge, thicker box, different type of boxes that will prevent add minutes to your freezing. Blast freezing is not cheap. So you have to calculate from your production standpoint, what is the best way to freeze, the most efficient that you can freeze, and calculate your labor. If the labor, after repacking it, more expensive, and if it's going to take time, basically once it's frozen, you want to keep it frozen. So that's what you have to calculate. That's your answer. And I think it should work. So let me, feel free to reach out on Bakerpedia if you have any questions, but that's what I would do. Next question. If artificial sweeteners can solve the problem of sweetness when sugar is removed from a baked good, what ingredients can be used to replace the other functions of sugar, controlling moisture, stabilizing air bubbles, etc.? I know we've all been there where we're thinking, let's remove sugar, in cakes. So, but in cakes, the way I always say and always use and teach to people with cakes, it's like a tower, it's like a deck of cards. As soon as you remove something, what are you replacing the sugar with? And since sugar is not only brings sweetness, it adds texture, it helps with shelf life. It does a lot of, and lowers your water activity. It does a lot of different things within a cake. So it's all dependent on what you're trying to achieve in terms of shelf life of the cake's texture. Because as you remove your sugar, yes, we can get sweetness created artificially or by sweeteners to bring the sweetness back. But the texture and the shelf life vary. So what ingredients do we have? We have some specialty starches. We have some different resistant fiber. We have different ingredients that can help basically bulk it. You're going to have to bring ingredients that can bulk. And polydextrose is one of them that I would, you could use. But as you do that, you will change texture. You cannot just replace sugar and get the same exact cake and texture and everything. So I always say, if you go that route of removing sugar, always keep in mind that removing sugar will also have an effect on the finished products. So it can be, balanced, but it's about, again, like a deck of cards, balancing as best as you can. And is there one ingredient you can say, done? No, there's multiple ingredients you can use. A lot of people were using, combination with erythritol, sort of to bulk it. You're going to have to find some bulking agent to be able to just function similarly to sugar, in your cakes. So I hope it helped. So last question, why sometimes, even when the dough for sandwich bread, well-fermented, does not rise in the oven, yet it shrinks a little bit? So you have what you're calling a well-fermented dough and it's not rising. So what could be the issues? Let's think of a yeast. What do the yeast, how do you make a bread rise? One is proper mixing. So you have proper gluten development. So just think about, a balloon, and the balloon has to be able to expand. And so a good gluten, so that means you have to have a good quality flour. So I'm assuming you do. Maybe it's a fluke. And for the yeast, it's a good quality yeast, because yeast will basically eat up some converted sugar into alcohol by releasing carbon dioxide, which creates a leavening effect of what you're looking for. So it could be issues of poor yeast. It could be issues of the water, because if the water pH is not there, you could have issues as well. It could be the environment. Are you adding vinegar or something that will prohibit the yeast to basically be active and grow? What is the temperature of your dough? Because that could also affect how it raises. And if fermentation standpoint, are you over fermenting? Because being over fermenting, so basically you're depleting the yeast activity. You've eaten most of the sugar within the flour, and also, again, as I said, flour quality and the flour type you're using. What is the falling number? Falling number is a good indicator as well. Are you using soft wheat, a hard wheat? What wheat? What's the age of the wheat? So there's millions of questions of why it couldn't work. But if you're interested, again, I always say that on the segment, go to the Bakerpedia page on bakery resources. You can get consulted, and that could be a 30-minute call, and then you get your problem solved. Because as I say all the time, sometimes that money well invested versus the money you're wasting and not fixing the issue. That's the bottom line. We're here to help. Bakerpedia is a great segment where you can get a lot of advice, and it's free to you guys, the bakers. So on that note, I wish you all a fantastic Tuesday, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Happy Tuesday.